Folks who build crystal radios as a hobby have been complaining that they have not been able to get 1N34 diodes, at least not 1N34 diodes that are real, and that these diodes that they do get do not function in a crystal radio. I am going to explain my theory about what it is they are actually getting, what the reason is that it does not work, and also a way to make them work in a crystal radio. Before I show what arrived, let me point out a detail in this picture, that is, this little thin wire. We sometimes call this wire a cat's whisker for some historical reason. I bought some 1N34 diodes, question mark, and some 1N5711, 5711, that is, diodes, for a reason that will become obvious later, from your favorite online site. By fumbling a magnifying glass in front of my cell phone, I got this picture that shows that these things certainly do not have a cat's whisker. They are built exactly the same as the 1N5711 diodes. Fumbling the magnifying glass in front of the phone again, this is what a 1N5711 looks like. I went online and got the data sheets for the 1N34. I did find somebody who still makes them, and also for the 1N5711. Comparing back and forth between the two data sheets, I noticed that the specifications of these parts match up very nicely. The capacitances are low, the 4 drops are small. The one big difference is the amount of leakage current. The 1N34 has many times more leakage current than a 1N5711. This actually normally would make the 1N5711 be called a better diode. Making a crystal radio with a real 1N34 diode and then substituting the 1N5711, I discovered that indeed, where a 1N34 works fine, 1N5711 would not work. And this led me to try to figure out why. I think I have it figured out, and here's a SPICE model to help explain what it is that is going on. To explain this, I am going to break it into 3 main sections. First, we have the radio transmitter and receiver part. Second, we have the diode, 1N34, for example. And then finally, we have the headphone. I am representing the headphone as a 23 nanofarad capacitor because electrically that is what it looks like. It is a capacitor that when it gets charged, the crystal inside bends, and charging and discharging it is what makes the sound. Inside the radio transmitter, there is the carrier. This is just in my example, a 1 megahertz sine wave, that if we zoom in on it, we'll see it is indeed a sine wave. What I've labeled here as music, some people in the communication theory business would call the intelligence. I think those people have not actually listened to the radio lately. We'll just call it music, and for my purposes, I'm saying it is just a 2 kilohertz sine wave. What actually gets transmitted by the transmitter is a combination of the carrier and the music. to make something that looks like this, which is then received at a much smaller amplitude at the receiver. The purpose of the diode in the circuit is to work a little like a check valve, allowing only one polarity of the signal to get to the earphone, so that we hopefully get back to a signal that looks like our music. As you can see, that certainly isn't happening here. And the reason why gets back to that business about the leakage current of the 1N34 diode. What is happening is that the diode is putting a charge on the earphone, but there is no way for that charge to get back away unless you have the leakage current of the 1N34 in this circuit. There is an alternative. We can add a resistor like this. Doing some calculations, I determined that a 2K resistor would be ideal in this circuit. On my crystal radio, this sounded to me just like what I heard with the 1N34 diode in place. Making it a 5K resistor made it slightly louder, but it was definitely more distorted. Reducing it to 1K made it decidedly quieter, but also more distorted. The ideal resistor to use is going to naturally vary with the kind of crystal radio you build and also the sort of earphone you are using. Mine has a quite long twisted cable on it, which I think is making its capacitance higher than many others would have. I suggest if you are doing this that you just obtain a collection of resistors between about 1K and about 10K and try them and see which one works the best. If you found this useful, please comment below and have good luck with your hobby.